What is the manosphere getting right? They're getting a whole lot wrong. They're teaching control, domination, undervaluing women. There's something that they're doing that's attracting young men, and we need to understand what that is.
Every single man in the world will have had the experience of talking to people or going out on a date. It ultimately boils down to how much money he has, how tall he is, or what social status he has.
Boys bring two major questions to their fathers. Dad, please validate me. Please tell me I am man enough. There is a vacuum. There's a lack of good, strong, powerful fathers, uncles, male role models. And you've got boys who grow up thinking, I'm not going to crack it because I don't have money and I'm not tall and big and strong.
You have to be confident, but not too confident, otherwise you're arrogant. But if you have no confidence, then you're obviously just weak.
Men want to be strong and women want strong men. But men need to be strong in a way that's safe, in a way that's competent, together, able to make decisions, be decisive, but not domineering. That's the one thing that appeals to young boys about this manosphere. It teaches them to build themselves physically, to build themselves mentally, to get a job, to make money, to better and further themselves. But what is not right is for them to grow so that they can dominate, to grow so that they can have more money because money matters more than everything else. And the young men who look up to them often do not have in their lives good, strong male role models. And that really is the gap that we need to fix. Hi there, Craig Wilkinson, Force for Good, where we talk about how you and I can be a powerful force for good in the world, how we can actually make the world a better place. Last podcast was about the manosphere, just reacting to that Louis Theroux documentary called Inside the Manosphere, where he showed extreme versions of masculinity gone horribly wrong. But it was the podcast for which we got the most responses, a lot of wild responses, crazy responses. And in fact, so much so that I'm going to talk today in this podcast, we're going to call it Inside the Manosphere Part 2. And controversially, I'm going to call it What the Manosphere Gets Right. You see, the manosphere attracts a lot of young male followers. And that's a tragedy, but nothing happens in a vacuum. There's a reason why they do. Not that it's the right thing, and these guys that were displayed in the manosphere, inside the manosphere, definitely not good male role models, horrible male role models. But there's something that they're doing that's attracting young men, and we need to understand what that is, because when we understand what that is, we can understand what's missing in what we are doing for men and boys in our society. There's a masculine crisis around the world, universally acknowledged, and what is that? And why are these young men attracted to these very, very toxic influences? Some of the comments we got, and I want to run through them as we kick off. Some of the comments were from the extreme toxic side of masculinity. Some were from the extreme toxic side of femininity. And let's be honest, you get toxic people. You get toxic men and you get toxic women. But they're on the extreme and they manifest differently. It's so important that we kick off this whole discussion and contextualize it by saying that masculinity and femininity are both beautiful gifts to humanity. This is not a zero-sum game. This is not a game where men win and women lose, or women win and men lose. I mean, that's ridiculous. This is a game, well, it's not, it's a world in which both the masculine and manhood and the femininity and womanhood are equally important, but stunningly different. And it's so important that we know that there's a difference and we understand the difference. And it's so important that we know both are equally valuable. A young boy and a young girl need both a man and a woman in their life, a mother and a father preferably. And both play an equally important role, but both play a different role. There are things that I play as a father, a role in my son's life that my wife cannot. There are things that I play, a role that I play in my daughter's life that my wife cannot, and vice versa. There's a role that she plays that I cannot in both of their lives. Masculine and feminine, both beautiful. You and I exist today because the masculine got together with the feminine and they conceived us. And the world functions when both the man and the woman, in their masculinity and in their femininity, co-create this world. It's not a zero-sum game. It's not win or lose. It's win-win. Man and woman, co-creating, equally valuable, equally important, and yet different. And we're going to go into a bit of that. So I want to kick off by just showing some of the comments that came through. And as I said, some of them are wild. Some of them are ridiculous. You get toxicity on either side of the spectrum. And what we got to understand is that before we are male or female, we are human. And you get toxic humanity, which manifests in different ways for men and women. Because men and women are different. Men tend to be more aggressive in their toxicity, more domineering, more controlling. Women tend to be more relational in their toxicity. They can be very manipulative, but not necessarily physically violent. And they manifest in different ways. but both are equally harmful. And I want to go into what is it to be a good man and what is lacking in what we're teaching young men, and why do these young guys gravitate towards these toxic influences. But let's first look at some of the comments that came through and just reflect on them. So we've got someone who said here, by that logic, modern women don't love men either. No, what women love is what they can get out of men. What they love is how a man makes them feel validated. And most of all, they love how they can politically control and dominate men. To repeat, they don't love men. Because last week I commented on some of the men that were shown in the podcast, and in Louis Theroux's his manosphere, and said that they claimed to love women, but they didn't love women. They loved what they could get out of them and how they could control them. And what this guy is saying, he's coming back and saying, by that same logic, then women don't love men. Because if they did, they would give a care about men's feelings and well-being, and they obviously don't. Love is not a one-way street. Love is reciprocal. Ask any of these women what she offers men instead of what men can do for her, and she'll be done. You see, what he's referring to is the feminine side of toxicity. Any man or any woman who goes into a relationship only for what they can get, they're entering into the relationship on the totally wrong basis. Man and woman should come into a relationship giving and receiving. Reciprocity is what relationships are all about. If I'm there to abuse you or control you or get from you, I'm in it only for myself, not for you. Love, by its very definition, is there to give. And a loving relationship, both from a man's side and a woman's side, gives more than they take. And when a man and a woman are both giving more than they take, man, that relationship is destined for greatness. It's going to be an upward spiral. So once again, you get toxic men, control, manipulate, abuse, take. You get toxic women who want to control, manipulate, take. They don't abuse in the same kind of way. They have different ways of doing it, but both are wrong. Both are incorrect. And again, let's stop polarizing. Let's look at what is right and what is good. And that is a man who loves a woman and a woman who loves a man. They listen, they care, they co-create, they walk alongside each other. That's what a healthy relationship's all about. Let's look at another comment. So this individual writes, so the healthy masculinity you want is to be a slave. You live to serve others. Always give of your funds and time and resources while expecting nothing in return. Be grateful to be a tool and submit to your betters, and everyone who isn't a man is your betters. Nah, I'm just going to stay out of the hellscape that is modern life and live for myself. Again, this individual's totally missed the plot. Relationship's not about serving or being a servant. It's about serving each other. It's about loving each other, about giving to each other. And both men and women are equally valuable partners in that relationship. It's not about me coming in and being your servant or you coming in and being my servant. It's not. It's about us walking together, listening to each other, hearing each other, loving each other, caring for each other. Again, it's astonishing to me how quickly we jump to the extremes. It's not about just men. It's not about just women. It's not either or. It's both and. Let's look at some more comments. This guy's an ass and not representative of large swaths of the so-called manosphere. Also, the fact that you pretend there are not larger platforms where women talk about aborting all male babies and calling men bullet bags renders your credibility trash. My response to him was, agreed. There are toxic men and toxic women. Both need to be addressed. This is not a war between the sexes, nor is it a zero-sum game. True masculinity is a great gift to the world, as is true femininity. Again, you get women who, and we'll play a couple of clips about toxic femininity gone extremely wrong. Of course you get toxic men and toxic women. You get both. Both are wrong. Let's not enter into a war. Let's reject the extremes and let's embrace the middle. Another comment. The so-called manosphere is very broad and diverse. I love how you find the most toxic anti-intellectual ignorance to escape some of the real and legit concerns men have. Once again, there are legitimate concerns, and we talk about that. Society is not raising men well. Society is not treating men as they should. And often men are growing up wounded with false concepts about masculinity. And 100%, the guys that Louis Theroux chose to represent inside the manosphere were complete distortions, parodies of what masculinity should be. And there are elements of the manosphere which actually are getting it right. And I'm going to talk about those in some detail. But once again, we're looking at the extremes. Social media is very much about extremes. It's very much about people wanting to pick a fight. It's very much often about cowardly people sitting behind a screen and typing something that they would never say to you face to face. And we've got to address that. And we've got to say, we're humans, man. We need each other. And let's build together. More comments. Craig is lying, pretending the angry female femisphere doesn't exist. No one's pretending that doesn't exist. Of course it exists. As I said earlier, toxic on both sides. Let's reject both. This is a very fascinating comment and really worth addressing. Then tell me why so many women go after the bad boy and leave the nice guy standing by the side of the road. I've addressed this in a previous podcast, but there is that concept that nice guys finish last, that nice guys don't get anywhere. And there's an element of truth to that. And there's an element of woundedness on the side of women who pick the bad guy. You see, women want a strong man, but they don't want a domineering man. They don't want a man to dominate and control, but they want a man they know is strong. They want a man who they feel safe with. They want a man that if trouble comes, they know that this guy's going to be able to stand up and face down that trouble. They want that. And often the bad guy is perceived to be the strong guy. He's perceived to be the competent guy. And the nice guy is perceived to be the guy who's a little bit weak, who doesn't really have what it takes. And that's why, and we'll get into this, the manosphere appeals to men because men want to be strong and women want strong men. But men need to be strong in a way that's safe, in a way that's competent, together, able to make decisions, be decisive. We'll talk about that, but not domineering, not controlling. And often the bad guy is mistakenly taken to be the guy that's safe because he's strong, he's competent, he can fight, he can do these things, he'll deal with danger. But the downside of that is that he's also bad. The nice guy often is the guy who's a bit passive. He stands back. Now, what we need to be is strong and nice, powerful and good. We'll talk about that later. It's the warrior and the lover. And that's really what women desire. And that's what men desire from each other in friendships. You want a friend who's strong, but good. You don't want a guy that's strong and powerful, but he's going to be an asshole as a friend. We all want men to be strong, but good, powerful, but safe. Women want that. Men want that. We want that in our brotherhood. We want to hang out with guys that are strong, competent, that we know that will have our back in times of trouble. We all want that. The world wants that, and the world needs that. Men who are strong and powerful, but good and also nice. Nice is not necessarily weak, but it can be. It can be when a guy bends over backwards always to please, when he doesn't make decisions, where he always says, well, what do you want? Not what I want, We need people who are strong and caring. And so this guy makes a very good point. This guy makes a good point. He says, I think it's quite obvious why young men look up to this guy and the likes of him. And I presume they're talking about the men that are portrayed in the Uteros inside the manosphere. It's because we have no good role models, but it's not strange at all. And he makes a good point. There is a vacuum. There's a lack of good, strong, powerful fathers, uncles, male role models. And when there's an absence, almost inevitably, the guys that behave like this, the toxic end of the manosphere, haven't been fathered well at all, or haven't had the right male role models. And the young men who look up to them often do not have in their lives good, strong male role models. And that really is the gap that we need to fix and remedy. Here's someone, I guess, from the femisphere side of things. She says, I am carrying my status as a 33-year-old single and childless woman like it's a badge of honor. And again, this is sad. You've got women who are saying, basically, it's a badge of honor that I'm single. I don't need men. I don't need a child. And I mean, this is very sad because if you fast forward her life 20 years, still childless, still single, and maybe surrounded by cats and teacups, is that a happy life, a fulfilled life? Men and women need each other. We're designed to be in relationship. We're social individuals. And if we deny that and we say, because people are bad, no, members of the opposite sex are bad, I'm going to be single, it's a tragic situation. It's a misled situation. And we need to, again, address that too. But we understand why. Obviously, people who are, you get in the manosphere, the incels, what they call involuntary celibate. You get the men going their own way movement. And this is the male equivalent of what this woman is saying, is that saying women are all bad. All they want is money and stuff, and they reject me because perhaps I'm not living up to the standard of what an attractive male is. And so women are bad. I don't need them. Again, it's a misconception. It's an overreaction. It's a reaction to men being hurt or society giving the wrong standards about what it means to be a man or what it means to be a woman. So these are many of the comments that came, and we need to address it because this is not about the extremes. This is about finding what works good men and good women are out there. And when we get together as a good man and a good woman and build a good relationship, that's when we build a good family. That's when we build a good society. That's when we build a good world. So we need to fix this extreme toxicity on both sides of the divide. So let's look at a couple of the clips. And I want to start with, last week we showed clips of very toxic men, demeaning women, men that have got completely wrong ideas of what it means to be a man. Let's start with, perhaps the female equivalent of that.
Mandatory vasectomies for baby boys. Yeah, I said it. And if that made you flinch, good. You won't want to miss part 2 either. Trust me. You want to solve half of society's problems? Start there. Because here's the truth. Men don't want to wear condoms. They don't want accountability. They want raw. And when the baby comes, they say, oh, it's not my problem. So fine. Mandatory vasectomies. Problem solved. Abortions, they would drop overnight. Date rape pregnancies, gone. Single motherhood, cut in half. Generational trauma, reduced. And crime? Crime would plummet. Because fatherless homes are the #1 pipeline to gangs, violence, and prison. Fix the fathers, fix the future. This one move would take women out of survival mode, kids out of poverty, and society out of chaos. And the only ones mad would be the ones that never wanted accountability in the first place. So yeah, call it savage. But if we snip the problem at the root, we'd finally see what society looks like when women aren't carrying it all. Don't scroll, catch part 2 because the return on investment would be mind-blowing.
Here's a woman who's saying the solution to all of our world's problems is to mandatory vasectomies. Make boys infertile so that they cannot reproduce. Again, it's an extremely toxic reaction. Men and women, both vitally important. Masculinity, beautiful role. I just want to jump a little bit into the history of men and women. If you look at so much of what's going on today, it's this kind of war and between the sexes. And I don't think that that's the majority. I think it's the vocal minority that are out there on social media just venting themselves. Those men that were interviewed by Louis Theroux, that's not the majority of men whatsoever. That represents a very toxic minority. But there's this middle, the moral majority in the middle that really their voices are being silenced. And it's so important that we amplify those voices. So let's look at the history of men and women. And there's good and there's bad, but there's mostly very, very good. So you look at the good. And what this woman is saying is just talking about all the negative sides of masculinity. But let me tell you this. Men throughout history have sacrificed their lives to fight for what's right. You look at the World War I and World War II. The Allies fighting in World War II took millions and millions and millions of men, went to their death. Millions of men. Very few women died in that thing. Men went on the front line. Men were taking airplanes up in the sky at the age of 19 to fight the Nazi evil that was coming across the English Channel and dying at the age of 19, 20, 21. These were men who stood up and fought for what's right. Masculinity throughout the ages has put its life on the line to protect good values. Men, in terms of what they've contributed to society, the very roads that we drive on, the very houses we live in, the very buildings that we go to the office in, the oil that we put in our vehicles, all these jobs are done by men. Vast majority of construction, oil rigging, the tough, hard, difficult to do jobs, the manufacturing are done by men. And that's the contribution towards society. The vast majority of industrial accidents are experienced by men. Men doing what needs to be done to create the comfortable world that we live in. And they die as a result. Industrial accidents, 90% men. That's what men have contributed and continue to contribute. You look at Ukraine and you look at so many wars, men going into war to fight against evil. And men going to work every single day, building roads, digging for oil, etc., etc. This is what men has contributed. Mining. If you look at the history of mining, how many men have died in mining accidents to get the vital minerals out of the ground that we need to live? Men have contributed and continue to contribute greatly towards society. Then look at some of the bad things of men. Men have often treated women as less than. It took a long time for women to get the vote in many countries. That's a negative aspect of masculinity. Men have often treated women as sexual objects. You've got the Harvey Weinsteins and all these horrible cases of men abusing women and treating them badly, rape and sexual abuse. Women and men, largely throughout history, have worked together, cooperated to create and build families, to create and build society. The vast majority of our history and the vast majority of our current world is men and women co-creating, working together to build society, families, to do what's right. And that's the vast majority of the history. So we cannot say that masculinity is a bad thing. It's not. It's a beautifully good thing. Of course it can go wrong, and it has gone wrong. But for the vast majority of time, both men and women have worked together and cooperated to build what we now know. We are far better off now than we've ever been. The lifestyles that we enjoy, the lack of poverty that the vast majority of the world enjoys, the access to education, to water, to electricity, this is built because men and women have built a society, and they continue to build. Human rights are better now, not in every part of the world, but are better now in certainly in the Western world, in the vast majority of the world, than they've ever been. And that was fought for by men and women standing together. So let's get this thing right. We need each other. We're equally valuable. Let's look at a couple of clips in terms of understanding what masculinity is. Because when we criticize masculinity, we're criticizing half of the world. We're saying that half of the world is wrong and bad and toxic and trash. And that's absolutely an incredible lie. But we've got to understand, what is a man? What drives a man? What makes a man a man? And I said earlier that men and women are different. And yes, we are. Yes, we are. And I want to show a couple of clips that really just graphically show how different we are and how beautiful that is. The beauty of raising boys, eh? The beauty of raising boys. You don't generally see girls behaving like that. Let's jump to another one here.
In this video, I see an innovative, boundary-pushing entrepreneur. Same as this fella, he's inventing a new mode of transport, like this other one as well. Yeah, this one. I understand that my female viewers will see all of this footage differently, though. Like, yeah, it looks like a wall-to-wall compilation of dodgy risks, driven mostly by arrogance, ego, and an overestimation of abilities. That's fine. Just know that we can't help it, us blokes. We have an idea, we have to stress test it. Give it a go. You ladies see a waterfall, you want a nice picture. Us guys see a waterfall, we explore the falling aspect of it. Nothing beats this guy.
Oh, gosh. Men behaving badly. They're just full of clips of men doing crazy, wild, stupid, foolish things. Insurance companies much prefer women to men because men behave in ways that are hazardous to themselves and others. This is just the reality of it. Men are built differently. You raise a young boy. I've been fortunate enough to raise a young man and a young woman, and they're different, man. They're different. Equally beautiful, bring different things, beautiful things, but wow, they're different. Men are driven by different things. Why do I talk about this and bring these clips of men being wild? And here's the reality. Boys need to be fathered. You see, this wild energy needs to be contained. It needs to be disciplined. And boys bring two major questions to their fathers, and preferably a biological father, but it can be an uncle. It can be a stepfather. I've got a beautiful clip later of a stepfather. And these two questions are, Dad, please validate me. Please tell me I am man enough. Please tell me I'm enough. And in the absence of that validation, boys often grow up feeling wounded, feeling inadequate. And so much of the bad behavior we see in men is a result of not having been validated by an older man, not having been told, you're the man. And when we don't get told you're the man, and we do these things to show off in front of our father, for him to say, you're the man, you've got it, you've got what it takes, no matter who you are. And if we don't have that, there's a sense of inadequacy. And much of the bad behavior that we see is driven by this need to find validation. Boys join gangs, boys show off in front of girls, boys do crazy things to receive validation. But the second thing that boys need from their fathers and older men, be it an uncle, be it a bigger brother, a grandfather, is to teach them and show them what it means to be a man. And that requires discipline. That requires sometimes hardship. That requires showing boys what the consequence of their actions are. It's modeling, it's mentoring, it's fathering, it's showing them how to be a man. And in the absence of that, this wild, unfettered energy can often turn into something that's quite dangerous, both to self and to others. Boys need that mentoring. They need that fathering. And the guys that follow these toxic versions of what it means to be a man very, very often do not have an older man teaching them, showing them, guiding them, disciplining them, teaching them what does it mean to actually be a man. Because in the absence of that, boys go wild. There's that amazing story from a game farm in South Africa, the Pilanesberg, when conservationists relocated small elephants from the Kruger National Park to the Pilanesberg. And after a couple of years, the young male elephants started becoming older elephants. And they started behaving very, very badly. I tell the story all the time. They started trying to mate with rhinos. Rhinos were being attacked and killed by these elephants that did not know how to handle their testosterone, their musk, this male energy, because there were no older male elephants. And as soon as older male elephants were introduced into the park, the behavior changed. And we see that in society.
Since the big bulls arrived, not one rhino has been killed.
In the absence of older male bull elephants, teaching younger boys how to behave and validating them, we see terrible behavior. And we see toxic men, basically boys in men's bodies, behaving badly, teaching younger boys how to behave. And becomes a major, major issue and a major, major problem. So where does all this go wrong? I want to show a couple of clips now. One is of a woman sympathizing with men, talking about how men grow up in a society and it's very hard for them to get it right. Let's watch this clip together.
I've come to the conclusion that men can't win. You can't leave work early or else you're not providing. But you can't stay at work either because then you're not spending time with the family. You can't show too much emotion, otherwise you're vulnerable. But if you don't show any, then you're a robot. You need to take charge, but not too much charge, otherwise you're controlling. But if you don't take charge, then you're just passive. You have to be confident, but not too confident, otherwise you're arrogant. But if you have no confidence, then you're obviously just weak. Regardless of what you do, somebody's not going to like it. So what are you supposed to do? Whatever the hell you want. And don't apologize for it.
Lovely to see a woman sympathizing with men, but in many ways it's true. We're told as men to get in touch with your feelings, be soft, be caring, be emotional. And then a lot of men do that, but they lose out on the other side of masculinity, the strong, together assertiveness, and they can't get it right. Here's a young man talking about masculinity and where it can go wrong for them.
Anyone has ever talked to any young men, or if you've seen the movie The Materialist, you'll know that every single man in the world will have had the experience of talking to people or going out on a date. And it ultimately boils down to how much money he has, how tall he is, or what social status he has. And if we as a society have been giving all these signals and conditioning men and young girls to value these things and behave this way, why are we surprised and what right do we have when we see something as problematic as the manosphere?
See, here's a young man who's starting to get to the bottom of what drives a lot of these young boys. And we do live in a society where what we taught as boys and as men, that you've got to have money and you've got to have sex appeal and you've got to be attractive and you've got to be together and you've got to be powerful. And if you're not ever going to get a mate. Now, of course, that's a false perception. And on the other side, if you look at the things that young girls go through, just as men are taught to have money and power, girls are taught to be beautiful. And unless they're beautiful and attractive, they're not going to be attracted to a man. And so you've got girls that are feeling rejected and abused because they don't live up to the standards of beauty that the world tells them to. And you've got boys who grow up thinking, well, I'm not going to crack it because I don't have money and I'm not tall and big and strong and muscular and I'm not a captain of the football club. And this is a major problem. But the reality is we have that. We have boys growing up feeling inadequate and less than, as though they'll never crack it. And for a young guy who's not necessarily good looking, he's not necessarily athletic, he doesn't come from money, he doesn't have the right clothes, life, then the dating game is very, very difficult because women do tend to go for the men like that. But at the same token, girls who grow up and they don't crack the sort of beauty standards that the world puts on them, they're not slender enough, they're not attractive enough, they face the same kind of rejection. So we've got rejection on both sides, on the male side and the female side. And that often leads to woundedness. And it leads to men and women lashing out in different ways against each other. And so we've got to look at this problem from both perspectives. And it's very real. And the pain that young boys feel and the pain that young girls feel growing up is very, very real. And it can lead to these extremes on the feminine side, these extremes on the masculine side, the woundedness, the hurt, the not being able to live up to what society tells us we need to. That's why social media likes have become such a massive thing. We want likes. We feel our worth is in the number of likes we get. The worth is in the number of hits that we get. And it's a complete misconception. We need to just get to the point where we realize who we are is enough and be that and be authentically that. But so often, boys and girls grow up wounded, and that leads to these toxic extremes. I want to jump to some clips about fatherhood, which just show what we need as boys growing up. And here's a clip. Some might find this quite brutal, but it's a clip of a father disciplining his son, teaching him respect, and it's absolutely crucial. Watch this with me.
This kid's father found out that he was making fun of a classmate who lost their hair due to cancer, so he made sure his son learned his lesson.
Hair gotta go, let's get it.
Why are you doing
It's over with.
Why?
It's over with. Hair gotta go.
Why did you do that
There you go, it works. There you go. Right. It's over with. It's over with now. It's gone. It's gone. It's gone now. It's over with. You're back to normal, sir. You about to get the attention that you really want.
I didn't even do that thing.
Yes, you did.
I did it.
Yes, you did. You did it. You did it. It's over with now.
Powerful clip, man. There's and boys need this, you see. Here's a boy who laughed at, disrespected a young kid in his class who had their hair shaved because of cancer. The father found out about this and he decided, I'm going to teach my boy a lesson. Now, you see, fathers do that kind of thing. Mothers seldom do that kind of thing. Mothers tend to be merciful and compassionate, and that's absolutely beautiful. We need that. But you need the justice and the mercy working together. You need the discipline as well as the love working together. Because if you don't have both, you grow up in a very lopsided world. Now, this young boy will never do that again. This young boy will never disrespect anyone else. This boy will respect and walk with compassion. Why? Because he had a father who displayed tough love, a father who's displayed the kind of discipline he needed to teach him the lessons he needed. And when you don't have fathers doing that, you have boys growing up disrespectful. They do whatever they want. They get away with it. And so a father needs to bring that discipline and modeling to teach his young boy, this is how boys behave. This is the right way to do things. And sometimes that requires pain. Masculinity is often forged in pain. It's forged in making the wrong decisions so that we can learn this is not how you do things. And there have to be consequences. If we raise kids with what often they call gentle parenting, they grow up to be brats. They grow up not learning these lessons because lessons are tough, and particularly with masculinity, these lessons are hard learned. These lessons are learned, forged in the fire. And the father provides that kind of fire to teach his sons the lessons. Now, when you look at masculinity and you look at fatherhood, there are two elements of it. Both are so crucial. One is the warrior side, and the other one is the lover side. Masculinity is about being the warrior, tough, resolute, disciplined, take it on the chin, man up, and that's legitimate. But that's only half. The other side is the caring, loving, nurturing, giving, emotionally literate, responsible. Both of those are necessary in masculinity. Let's look at another clip on fatherhood, which touches on both of these sides.
The father's love, that's the love that forges you. It's the love that holds you accountable. The love that gives you consequences, but teaches you how to walk into the storm and not break. In this world, we don't grow up without friction. We don't mature without adversity. And we don't gain wisdom without being humbled. And that's why a father's love doesn't always feel great or soft. It feels like discipline. It feels like reality. It feels like getting your ass kicked by life and realizing that that was God training you, not torturing you. At some point, every man has to make the shift. The shift from believing life is happening to him to the understanding that life is happening for him. When you stop seeing yourself as a victim and start seeing yourself as a student, everything changes. You lean in, you take the hits on the chin, you say, teach me. And the moment you do is the moment you step into the Father's love. And in the Father's love, you're never losing. You're either winning or learning. And yeah, winning feels good, but winning only pays you once. One victory, one moment, one ring, one sale, one achievement. But learning pays you for the rest of your life. Learning builds character, wisdom, resilience. Learning turns boys into men, and men into fathers, and fathers into leaders. Look around. Every fulfilled person you see is someone who learned from their mistakes. Every miserable person you know is someone who won't. That's the divine fingerprint. Everywhere you look in this world, that law holds true. A man who avoids consequences becomes weak. A man who embraces consequences becomes unstoppable. Life is not punishing you, it's preparing you. So if you feel the weight right now, the pressure, the adversity, the setbacks, don't run from it. Don't numb it. You're in good company. Lean into it. Learn from it. Go through it. That's the Father's love. That's the love that builds men. The love that shapes destinies. The love that turns your suffering into strength and your mistakes into mastery. You are not here to escape the fight. You are here to become the kind of man who can walk into the arena with scars, wisdom, and purpose, and say, God, thank you for the lessons. In a father's love, A man is either winning or learning, and both are divine.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Discipline, good behavior, respect, proper healthy masculinity is forged through a fire, and that fire is often provided by the father. Older men. Of course women can do that, and of course there are many single moms who have done that. And yet if you look at the world, and the woman who talked about providing vasectomies for boys also said that and acknowledged that so much of the dysfunctional boys come out of boys' homes where there's no father, where the father's abdicated, the father's absence. Present and engaged fathers who love, care, and discipline their boys is essential for growing healthy men. You look at the Louis Theroux Inside the Manosphere documentary. Many, most, in fact, every one of the 3 men he interviewed came out of a situation where there was no father to love and to discipline. Remember the 2 sides. The one side is love, care, listening, hearing, compassion, emotional literacy. The other side is discipline, strength. Both are absolutely crucial to forge a man into a healthy, good, respectful, loving, caring man. Both are needed. There's a beautiful clip I want to show you now of a letter that a young girl wrote to her stepfather. Listen to this clip, talking about the love of a father.
So this says, yesterday, today, and forever.
Oh gosh. Oh Michael, what can we do?
To Dad, love Mackenzie. Happy Father's Day. There's a picture of me and you. A biological father and a real father are not the same thing. You share DNA with a biological father, but you share so much more with a real dad. You share your hopes, your dreams, alone. Your ambitions, your worries in life. He watches out for you, cares for you, and loves you. He smiles when you're happy. If something hurts you, they hear him. He's proud of you and wants the best for you. You seem pretty real to me. I love you and want you to be my daddy forever. Will you adopt me? I love you, Dad. It would make me so happy.
Absolutely beautiful. And that's what real dads provide. They provide love, care, safety, protection. When you hurt, they hurt. They're there. They're present. They're engaged spiritually, physically, emotionally. That's what real dads do. And when you have a real dad and you have a real mom, a healthy whole man who's a dad, a healthy whole woman who's a mom, whether it's a stepmom, whether it's a real mom, real dad, the point is both a boy and a girl need that to grow up healthy and whole. When you don't have that, when you don't have that love and affirmation and care, as a man and as a woman, inevitably there's a wound. Now that wound can be healed, of course it can. And it's not inevitable that everyone who grows up without a present and engaged father and mother will end up being a bad person. Absolutely not. There are so many millions of people who've grown up in single households that have turned out beautifully. But ideally, you want an older man and an older woman, loving, nurturing, teaching, caring, imparting. Because when we have healthy men and healthy women, we have a healthy society. We have healthy relationships. And so when we have the toxicity, it really inevitably is a result of woundedness and false ideas of what it means to be a man and false idea of what it means to be a woman. You see, a man who's grown up fathered and mothered and validated and cared for and nurtured and disciplined and taught what it means to be a good man, he's got a very good chance of being a good man. And society and the world needs good men. A girl who grows up loved by a father, loved by a mother, having had positive, healthy masculinity and femininity modeled to her, chances are very good she's going to grow up to be a strong, healthy woman. And when a strong, healthy man gets together with a strong, healthy woman, they create a strong, healthy family. And that's the backbone of society. This toxicity, it comes out of woundedness and it comes out of false, wrong, incorrect notions of what it means to be a human being, what it means to be a man, and what it means to be a woman. And we can fix that. We can fix that by rejecting the voices and the toxicity of the extremes, both on the masculine side and on the feminine side. And by embracing healthy, whole, good humanity, healthy, whole, good masculinity, healthy, whole, good femininity. This is how we build a good world. Let's address the toxicity. Let's address it for what it is. Let's stop criticizing each other. Let's stop polarizing. Let's stop saying masculine is bad, feminine is wrong. Let's stop being men who go our own way. Let's stop being women who want to promote misandry. Misandry is the female equivalent of misogyny, and both exist. We have misogynists, woman-hating men. We have misandrists, man-hating women. Both are wrong. Both are toxic. Both are harmful to society. And of course, we need to understand that. It often and usually comes out of woundedness. A man who's been hurt by a woman or not fathered correctly, a woman who's been hurt by a man in whatever way, and none of that is acceptable. It's unacceptable for a man to hurt or damage or control or manipulate a woman in any way. And we understand that when that happens, it results in woundedness and it results in a backlash. Let's heal those wounds. Let's discuss those wounds. Let's talk about what is real masculinity, what is real femininity, what does it mean to be a man and a woman, because they're both beautiful, they're both essential, they're both necessary. I talked about how, in a previous podcast, how ideally the best couples are made by the most whole individuals. If I as a man need a woman to make my life complete, chances are I'm not going to be a very good partner because I'm needy. As a woman, if I need a man to complete me, chances are that I'm perhaps not going to be a great partner because I need the man. When we come into a relationship whole and healthy, and we don't necessarily need each other, we want each other, we want to love each other. Now, of course, that's the ideal world. Of course, none of us are completely whole. And of course, you can find healing and wholeness together in a relationship as you journey together. Let's conclude. What is the manosphere getting right? They're getting a whole lot wrong. They're teaching control, domination. They're teaching a very wrong perspective of undervaluing women, and that's wrong. Completely, utterly wrong. And I was criticized by men in the manosphere last week for calling that out, but it's wrong. We should never control. We should never manipulate. Women are equally valuable. It goes without saying. Worthy of equal opportunity. It goes without saying. We both equally need it. But where does the manosphere get it right? What attracts young boys? I tell you, the one thing they get right is they teach and inspire young men to be the best, to be strong, to be resilient, to take responsibility, to grow themselves physically, to be more attractive, to be more intellectual, to grow themselves. Men need to do that. So do women. Of course they do. And that's the one thing that appeals to young boys about this manosphere is it teaches them to take responsibility, to step up, to build themselves physically, to build themselves mentally, to get a job, to make money, to better and further themselves. And this is a very positive message. And I would say to every young man out there and every man out there, become the best version of yourself. Physically grow. Spiritually grow, mentally grow, academically grow in your finances, grow in every way you possibly can. But remember, grow so that you can become a better person. Grow so that you can make an impact on the world. Grow in such a way that you become someone who partners with someone else, not who dominates and controls them. And that's where the manosphere gets it right. Be responsible. And that appeals to men. That appeals to me. That should appeal to all of us because every one of us needs to be inspired to be the best we can possibly be. And that's not just financially or physically, it's everything, all of the above. In every area of our lives, we need to be the very best we can be. And that means continually growing in every area of our lives. And that's what appeals to the young men. And that should appeal to them. But what is not right is for them to grow so that they can dominate, to grow so that they can have more money because money matters more than everything else. Grow so that they can have more muscles than everyone else so that they can dominate them. That's the wrong aspect. So let's get it right. Let's be that powerful, strong individual, a force, but let's be a force for good. So I hope this has been useful. I hope it contextualizes the fact. I hope it silences the voices on the extremes of either side. We should never be toxic and aggressive. We should never be passive and disengaged. We should never diss the members of the opposite sex because they belong to a different gender. We should value all humanity and be the best version of our human beings that we can possibly be and respect others and help others grow and call out what's wrong. Let's call out what's wrong. Let's inspire what's good and let's get out there and be that force for good.